When I was little, I was bullied, and it shaped how I moved through the world and how others saw me. I was never popular, kind of the opposite, really. I was a bit of a social pariah, much like Myrta and Lucy in Winx Club. Rewatching season 1, I was surprised by how accurately the show portrayed two opposing responses to bullying. For Mirta, it built integrity, a certainty in who she was and what she refused to become. Whereas for Lucy, it intensified her insecurities, leading her to bring down others in order to feel more powerful herself. Go grab a hot drink, your crochet project, or whatever it is that you like doing as you watch videos, and get ready with me to deep dive into the most interesting characters of season 1, Myrta and Lucy. Admittedly, two sides of the same coin. Hi, if this is your first time on this channel, welcome. Becoming Bamboo is where I share my journey of rewiring the mind, building resilience, finding balance in mind, body, and soul, using tools like hypnotherapy, storytelling, and other holistic practices. Of course, right now I am doing a series on Winx Club. I have rewatched the entirety of season 1, and I will also watch future seasons. And basically what I do is that I bring forth themes and lessons that I think are interesting in the show. And Myrta and Lucy was the first topic that really came to mind before I even rewatched the show, because I remember how well the whole storyline for Myrta and Lucy was, despite how little screen time they actually got in the series. So I hope you really enjoyed this video. And do subscribe to join me in my journey of becoming Bamboo if you're interested in that. There isn't that much information about Mirta and Lucy, so I'm going to do my best with what we've got in season 1. And sometimes you might think I'm going to be reaching a little bit, but I mean, there isn't like that much material to work with, so I'm doing my best here. What we do know about Myrta and Lucy is that they are childhood best friends, so they grew up together. That's very important. And then they both enrolled together at Cloud Tower to become witches. Now, once they do get into Cloud Tower, it is quite clear that they are the social pariahs of Cloud Tower, and they're not really accepted by the other students. It is unclear as to why exactly when it comes to Lucy, but it is clear in Myrta's case that she is being rejected because of her very different temperament from the other students. I can't remember which episode it was in, but she did mention about, hey, maybe we should be friends of fairies, and then the other witches laughed at her because of the rivalry that is going on between witches and fairies. So we already know pretty earlier on that Mirta is going to be different. She has, for lack of a better word, a lot of goodness in her. She has a lot of gentleness and compassion that doesn't really appear in any of the other characters that attend Cloud Tower. So this is what we know in the beginning. Now, things start really kicking up when we see the interactions with the Trix. So in the now deleted episode where Lucy asked the Trix for help to win a beauty pageant, she was completely humiliated by the Trix, who found it really funny to kind of make fun of Lucy in public. So since then, it feels like, and again, they don't really get much screen time, so this is the part where I'm reaching a little bit, but it seemed as though mostly Lucy becomes the laughing stock of Cloud Tower since the incident, because she got humiliated in public, and also it was found out that she was cheating with using magic in public. So that's not great when it comes to social standing, especially in Cloud Tower. Mirta is the best friend one could have, because she always has Lucy's back, and she is very much on the side of, you should not befriend the Trixes, see how they treated you. Myrta has a backbone, despite not being liked or not really, you know, having much social power to speak of. She stands up for what she thinks and what she believes in, and she defends her friend at every occasion, which is not really something that you see Lucy actually, you know, doing for Mirta. Case in point, when the Trix casts a spell on Mirta that keeps her from breathing, and Lucy basically does nothing apart from looking worried. Now, yes, you might say it's a bit of a tall order to stand up to the Trix, because, you know, they're the Trix, and comparatively, Lucy and Mirta are not that powerful. But I mean, Mirta did stand up for her friend multiple times, and you really never see the opposite happening. So you can already see there is some dysfunction in their relationship, in their friendship. You can already see that the two friends have diverging paths, where Mirta stands firm in what she believes in, and she is never going to betray her character, whereas Lucy sees strength and power into people who have exploited, made fun of her, and abused her as well. It was further reinforced when the Trix go to attack Musa, you know, in this alleyway, and all of the witches of Cloud Tower rush out to gang up on Musa, Lucy included, whereas Mirta is the only one who decides not to partake because she finds that this is not fair. So this is kind of like the early things we know about both of them, and there are like some hints of like what is to come. There is finally a turning point. It is the scene, I can't remember which episode, but it happened in the girls' bedrooms, where Myrta and Lucy are rooming together, where Lucy finally says something that does betray the character that she has, or the lack thereof. She calls Myrta pathetic, useless, and powerless, because Mirta can't really use dark magic like the other witches, in part because she has too much of goodness in her to really use it that way, so negative feelings actually don't fuel her much, because she's, well, we see it later in the series that she then transfers and becomes a fairy, but she is much more fueled by goodness than she is by negative feelings, which is why she's not a very good student despite being very studious. But I mean, she's still badass, and we see it as well when she confronts the Trix. Her childhood best friend Lucy calls Mirta a pathetic person, and she doesn't want to be friends with Mirta anymore because of that, because Mirta isn't powerful. And that is like a very unfortunate classical outcome of bullying. I don't know if you guys have had the experience yourself in your personal lives or by observing it in the world, but usually when a person is bullied, there are two paths they can take. One of them is the path of integrity, and the other is the path of insecurity. So in a person who has integrity and is secure, because of the bullying happening, their values and their character is being forged through fire. They're like, this is the last thing I'm going to become. I will never become that. I will become a good person. I will never squash someone weaker than me. I will never do these things. You know, that forges their character. And they later become someone who will always stand up to bullies and never let any of those things slide. The other way that you can react to bullying is seeing the power of the person who was able to stomp on you, envy it, and strive for it yourself. Thus, becoming a bully yourself despite having been bullied, and knowing what it does to a person. I have seen this many times actually, where, especially like in, you know, early childhood, where someone that was bullied will bully someone else just because then they're not the target anymore and they're part of the group. And there is power and strength in a group. This is like herd mentality, you know. And we see this clear as day happening with Myrta and Lucy. The reason why I coined the phrase, there are two sides of the same coin, isn't by happenstance. They are bound by the same experience, which is they are being bullied, they're being made fun of, they are not accepted by their peers, but they have very different reactions to it. Mirta decides to keep on her path and find her own truth and keep going in spite of that, whereas Lucy decides to join them instead. So this is like the turning point in their relationship, and also when Mirta decides to fight the Trix head on. She is like seeking vengeance for the role that they have had on her friend. Now, she is correct in the sense that the Trix have heavily inspired Lucy on the road of insecurity that she is going down, but it is still a choice that Lucy makes herself. While they might have been the catalyst for it, it doesn't change the fact that her friend decided to completely disregard their history, disregard their relationship for power. That is still Lucy's choice. Anyway, so Mirta decides to pay back the Trix for what they've been doing, and she is convinced that these people are evil, which she is correct. And she is one of the few people who actually point the finger on just how bad they are. Well, we all know what happens to her. Unfortunately, I couldn't find like a t-shirt with a pumpkin on it, or I would have put it on. This is a closet outfit I had that kind of resembled what Mirta is wearing. Icy looks at her shirt, Mirta's shirt, and then is like, oh, okay, boobity bitty buddy boo. You're a pumpkin. I'm not going to go through too much into what happens while Mirta is in a pumpkin, because this is an episode summing up everything that happens to Mirta. It's more, I'm kind of like exploring the angle of what bullying can do to a person, and nothing really happens much during the time she is a pumpkin, except for the fact that she is just as helpful as she has been when she was a person, and she like helps the Winx multiple times, further reinforcing actually the character of Mirta and how good of a friend she is, actually. How gentle and compassionate, and how good of a heart she has. There isn't much going on after that until the very last episode, when there is a very short moment between Mirta and Lucy, where Mirta announces to Lucy that she is actually going to stay in Althea and transfer school. This is like when you can see that despite the Trix having had a key role in Lucy going down that road of pursuing power, they're not solely responsible for what happens with Lucy, because she says when they're sitting or standing near the well, I don't think I wrote down what she said. She is being very cold and dismissive and gives her the cold shoulder, kind of like ignoring her for transferring school and choosing to become a fairy instead of a witch, despite them being best friends since childhood and having spent all of their time together growing up, you know? And despite Mirta being the only one who always stood in her corner, always, all the time. That is what Lucy chooses to do. This shows how immature Lucy is in comparison to Mirta, that she can't separate her friend from her choosing to become a fairy, and that she is very fickle when it comes to what she stands for and believes in. This overall is, I think, a much more important lesson that goes beyond just, oh, these are two possible ways you can react to bullying, which, you know, it does show that in the show, and it shows it really well, I find. But it also shows something else, which is you can outgrow relationships. It doesn't always have to be a dramatic ending. It doesn't have to happen because of a breakup, so to speak, like an explosive fight or something. Sometimes you're just at a very different place in your life, in your mind. You're like more quote unquote evolved. You're more mature. That kind of makes it so that your old friendships don't really serve you anymore. And it doesn't mean that it's because your friends were awful necessarily, though, you know, Lucy wasn't the best of friends. This is like a really good lesson, I think, to have represented and to hear, which is that it's okay to outgrow your relationships. It's okay to outgrow your friendships. It's okay to change, move on, and go find other people that are a better match for you and who you are. In the case of Mirta, her having character and values that she consistently lives by also allows her, in a way, to always land back on her feet. By that I mean that, okay, she is seeing that Cloud Tower isn't for her. She's going to Althea because she feels that being a fairy suits her more and also her values more. She makes friends there. She develops a support system very quickly because she is also authentically herself. Whereas if you are trying to appease other people or to cater to what they like, they're never really going to accept you for you, which is what Lucy is doing, and something she won't get out of for a good while. The reason why I'm bringing up this whole relationships can die out while others blossom, and it's okay to evolve and have some friends disappear from your life because of it, is because it has happened to me. Now, as I have said in the intro, I was never the type to have many friends to begin with. I think growing up, I tried to befriend other people. I wanted other people to like me. I never really asked myself the question growing up, but would I even want to be friends with these people that I'm trying to be liked by? The answer is actually no, I wouldn't. I don't think it has really come up in previous videos if you're like a return viewer, but I have I don't know if it's necessarily right to say high standards exactly, but I know exactly what I want to do with my life. I know what I value and what I like, and that does disqualify a lot of people from being a part of my life just because of what I know I want for myself. Another component to this is that I know I'm not the greatest at maintaining relationships, and I'm not the greatest at allocating my time for other people because I'm terrible at time management. There actually will be a video coming up about that. So I tend to think, well, if I'm not that good at, you know, maintaining relationships with people, and actually my objectives don't really allow me to really focus on the whole social aspect of my life right now, then what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna prioritize the people who matter. Because of that, those people are gonna be fewer, and I actually have found that I feel much more free having very few friends that I know I can count on and that I can call friend, in the sense that they are happy for me when I achieve certain things or when I get excited about something that I have like watched or like learned or like read. But they're also the people who would be here when I'm down, and they have been actually multiple times. So I think, you know, in the greater scheme of things, Myrta and Lucy were like friends that grew up and then grew out of the relationship because they wanted two different things out of life, and that's okay. It's very important to carefully select the people that are around you because of multiple reasons really, but one of them is that your relationships actually contribute to your health. So the better, happier relationships you have, the better your health is. I'm not going to go too deep into that because that's a whole other video, but it's really important to have relationships you can count on. And I think the research said it was about 3 or 4 like important good relationship, good friends in your life is like what it takes to kind of live a long, happy, fulfilled life. I would be really happy to hear about what you think about this video as well. I am going to put out a poll on what video to tackle next for season 1 of Winx Club, so do vote in that as well so that I know which ones I'm going to post next. Hope you enjoyed, and if you did, do drop a like, a comment. It really helps with the algorithm and boosting this small channel to more people. So yeah, you know, like, comment, subscribe, the whole big 3, the usual on YouTube, and I'll catch you in the next one. Bye!